Good morning, everybody. My name is John Harris. I'm the global editor-in-chief of Politico, and I've been asked by the World Economic Forum to lead our conversation today with the very distinguished guest, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Iraq, who has been in his job since October 2022. He was well-credentialed before that, had a number of ministries, including, I can't list them all, but you had human rights. Did you have agriculture, sir? Hardly anybody, it's hard to imagine somebody would be better credentialed coming into the very difficult job that you now hold. We've got a half hour. This conversation is being live streamed for people who are commenting on social media. Just a reminder, that's hashtag WEF24, and we will try to cover as much ground as we can in the next 30 minutes, sir, with great appreciation for the time that you've given us here in the room and given to the WEF Forum in Davos. Sir, welcome. Many people, I believe, must have, certainly this is true for many in my country, in the United States, but I think it must be true for many visitors here at Davos. They have a picture of Iraq that is grounded in 20 years ago, the time of so much violence and war. We don't have an accurate picture or a contemporary picture of the state of Iraq now. Could you give us your view of the quality of life in Iraq, the degree of safety, the degree of optimism or fear or anxiety that your people feel as you tried to lead them?
No. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, the merciful and the compassionate, a very good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for having me. This is a great opportunity to meet you, Mr. Harris, to have this conversation here at the WEF, at the Davos Forum. As to the question that you have raised, it is true, after 23, there has been a major change, which was complicated. It's true, difficult steps in building the institution of the state, and we moved from a dictatorship to a democracy, full-fledged democracy. The security was very high. Terrorism was caused mayhem in our country. ISIS was also had a propaganda that threatened not only Iraq, but the world at large as well. So we had challenges and hard times. Iraq won. The people of Iraq won. They came out united with the help of our friends, partners from friendly countries as well, who stood with us to go through this crisis. And today, despite all these difficulties and despite of the disparities in the political standpoints within Iraq, there is somehow we have adopted definitely democracy as a step, and the rotation, the peaceful rotation of democratic changes at the federal level or at the regional level, and we have had local elections who had been standing still for years, and in Kirkuk, the elections in Kirkuk were held up since 2005, and Kirkuk, as you know, is a small-scale Iraq. This is a great indication that we have a political track. Today, the political narrative is not a political that is confessional, religious-based, or regional-based. No, it is a full-fledged Iraqi to meet the needs of the Iraqi people. So we would like to implement the program in favor to work and to serve our citizens. So it is a citizenship-based political trend. The challenges are not security. We have economic, climate, and administrative reforms challenges, and this is an indication, a clear indication about the situation, the real situation in Iraq. We are trying to move forward, specifically with this government that has 5 priorities that have been determined based on the aspiration of the people of Iraq, providing job opportunities, alleviating poverty, anti-corruption, and reforms, and reforming the economy today. Iraq is peaceful, stable, and this is a necessity for Iraq, for the region as well, very important region for us and for the world at large.
Sir, Iraq has historically been heavily reliant on oil revenues. It's one of the big themes of the World Economic Forum over the past many years has been the transition away from a carbon-based oil economy. Tell us about your own efforts to modernize the Iraqi economy. By the time you leave, and of course you don't know when that is, what will be different in terms of the modernization and diversification of the Iraqi economy?
No.
Now, it is true that in the past we have had oil-based economy. That was very important for us. But that was also a weak point. That was a shortcoming because basically it was counterproductive because we were only based on oil revenues. That was the only target we had. Now, there is a transition to diversification. It is part and parcel of our program and also in part and parcel of our economic aspirations. We would like to go from 59% reliance on oil revenues to 80%, and we are going reducing the reliance on oil revenues. And therefore, this can occur based on different economic trends. So reforming the oil economy, restructuring the oil infrastructure, and we have not invested enough in gas because we import gas from neighboring countries. Byproducts are also imported from neighboring countries, whereas we are an oil-producing country, and therefore we have to guide, reorientate the economy towards the right tracks. And this is one track. The other track is that we have important strategic economic tracks in addition to the reforms, and we have leading economic programs aiming at complementarity, integration in the petrochemical and also renewables, clean energy sources. We are on the right track of diversification to have different revenues.
Sir, I'm in the news business, and sometimes in the news business it's confusing. We don't always get the facts exactly right, or it takes time as positions evolved. I've been confused as I've read the news stories about your response to the recent U.S.-backed drone strike that killed an Iranian target in Baghdad. It looked like you had reached the conclusion it was time for all U.S. troops to leave Iraq. But I've later seen news stories saying that's not your position. Could you clarify what your position on that is? And did your position evolve, or were the initial reports of that not giving credit to the nuance of your actual views?
Indeed, one of the challenges that Iraq is meeting is that we don't have a proper picture of what is happening. Some agencies, even your agency lately, to be honestly, they take news, and we don't know how correct, how accurate the information that are referred to. When we say day in, day out through our foreign ministry, we spoke about position regarding the presence of the international coalition. It is a good opportunity that we reiterate our position. Iraq, government and people are respectful and appreciate the position of the international community that contributed along with the Iraqi people who made a lot to defeat ISIS. This is a clear and gut position, specifically from the Iraqi people. The other issue, now the justification of the presence of the coalitions is to fight ISIS. And today, with the testimony of all the people in Iraq, ISIS is no longer a threat to the Iraqi people. So there are some cells, some groups running away, hiding away, who have hideout in the desert and they are being tracked by the forces of Iraq. Now, the preparedness of our army is clear. We have the preparedness, and this is a sign of stability and a guarantee to safeguard the situation in Iraq. For this, and through these, based on these indicators, we started to implement a commitment made by the Ministry Council is that we negotiate with the coalition to discuss how to finish this mission in Iraq, and that was the aim of the delegation of our visit in 2023 to the U.S. to set up a bilateral group in order to implement the withdrawal of the coalition. Now, what happened on October the 7th stopped the meetings that were in line, and today, after the aggressions that are happening on Iraqi positions, we have now to start the discussion on to prepare the timeline on how the international coalition moves from Iraq, and then we will have a bilateral partnership with regional countries. We will all have a bilateral relationship with and partnership with the coalition members. So we are a sovereign country, and therefore it is only natural that we move towards this position. This is a request from the people, and this is a democratic country, and therefore we have to reply to meet the needs of the people, and therefore this commission will have to work on the meetings for the withdrawal. Thank you.
Reflecting the wishes of the people, but in terms of your personal priorities as Prime Minister, is your position the sooner the better, or do you feel this transition should take place purposefully and not necessarily on any set timeline?
نعم بالتأكيد.
Indeed, yes. I believe that the sooner we withdraw the coalition, it is a necessity for the stability, the security of Iraq, and it is a necessity to safeguard constructive bilateral relationship between Iraq and the countries of the coalition. This is my position as a Prime Minister. It is not the position of any other body, but it is myself directly.
Sir, to state the obvious, it's a very dangerous time in the Middle East because of the Israel-Hamas war, and there's a great concern that the war would widen, become much more of a regional war. I think it's clear, actually, there's already quite a lot of regional violence, and to some extent the conflict is already in a regional stage, but not in the acute regional stage that some fear it might become. Could you give us your view? What is the degree of risk right now that this the very volatile situation with respect to Israel's military action in Gaza will spark something much wider in the region and possibly including your own country?
Among the complexities of the security situation in the Middle East is that we ignore a clear situation, which is the fight of the Palestinian people. This is ignored. This is overshadowed, unfortunately. The aim for the Palestinians is to have a state with Jerusalem as a capital. Some people think that the war only started, or the fight only started on October 7th, but it's not. In fact, this has been going on a long time. There was a blatant overshadowing of the Palestinian request, and the plight has been overshadowed for years. And that led to what happened in October, a dramatic war in the situation. We are facing a real genocide to killing 2 million people who are found in this enclave, in this strip. under the silence of the international community, who only say things and make declarations. In the conference of Cairo, after the attacks, we all said nobody wants to escalate the war. Nobody wants the escalation. But today, after 100 days, there has been some escalation to the Red Sea, to Lebanon, to Syria. And we don't know what is coming next, basically, because this may yet expand and accelerate. This is a very sensitive area. It is the reserve area for oil. It has, a strait, maritime straits, very important to the world. And therefore, the international community does have a duty to take its legal and ethical position towards the occupation government, because their aim is to continue killing people, warring. We cannot leave somebody like Netanyahu, who is reckless, completely reckless and ethical. We cannot let somebody like that to continue doing what is he doing in Gaza. This is our position. This is what we say to everybody, and we are very much concerned that unless we do something, the war may expand and escalate in the region.
The question, you said, well, unless we do something, and my question is, do what? Secretary of State Blinken was here in Davos yesterday. He's now gone home. But he was trying to make the case with my colleague Tom Friedman of the New York Times in their conversation that for all the trauma and the violence and the despair and the death of this moment, that he sees the possibility of, in the medium term, more hopeful conditions, that this crisis actually will accelerate something that was maybe in the early stages of Arab countries wanting to normalize their relationships with Israel in exchange for help restoring the damage and the devastation in Gaza, participating in the recovery, and also getting back on a track for a two-state solution. So at what seemed to most of us a very pessimistic moment, he was striking a surprisingly optimistic note. I'm curious what you think of that dynamic that he's describing. I'm curious more broadly of your own view of the end game of this conflict. Where does this go?
There is nothing new on what Mr. Blinken has said. Basically, everybody says the same. But this is what is being said. But Blinken has been refused by the Israeli government. Even the post-war scenario is refused from the Israelis. As we speak, children and women are being targeted and killed by the occupation army today. So there is a failure. The international community has failed. The international organizations have failed. The international institutions have failed in this unjustificable, unacceptable death that is unraveling before us in Gaza.
To lead, at least in the near to medium term, much cause for optimism. Something else that Secretary of State Blinken said seems to me self-evidently true, that he's never seen Israel so traumatized and so united in their pain, in their anger, in their willingness, in their eagerness to punish Hamas. So no. I don't. The middle ground and the exit does not seem obvious to me from your remarks. Is there something I'm missing?
I have a question. Where are the Oslo decisions, the Madrid decisions, Sharm el-Sheikh decisions, the international binding resolution? 87 decisions have not been implemented. So what is the source of optimism? Because there is a stubborn Israeli government. They simply ignore any international resolutions, and there is some kind of accomplices. There are people are covering the Israeli government. Even the Palestinian Authority, who accepted, who recognized Israel, even the Palestinian Authority have now convinced that that everything that is happening is only words and narrative and giving a carte blanche to Israel to continue doing what is doing. And therefore, unless we realize that enough is enough and that we have to make sure that the International Security Council resolutions are binding, are implemented, that all the resolutions are implemented, we will be facing, basically a stalemate. And we have to realize that.
Iraq has often found itself at the crossroads of regional tensions, particularly between the very troubled relationships between the United States and Iran. I wonder if you could give me your assessment of the state of the U.S.-Iranian relationship now, but also how that influences your decisions with your responsibilities to protect Iraqi interests.
دائما ما يطرح هذا السؤال.
This is a question that is all being raised. This is this bipolarity between Iran and the U.S. Because we have relationship with other countries as well in the neighborhood, and not only with Iran. Iran is a neighbor country. We have commonalities with Iran. We have social commonalities, cultural, historical, mutual interests. Iran has stood up with us in the war against ISIS, and we have also interest with Iran. We have interest with the United States. We have strategic partnership that helped us to pull down the authoritarian regime that was in our country. And therefore, this is a status of Iraq. Iraq is specific in this position in one way. And Iraq is one of the countries that can basically be as a mediator between Iran and the regional countries and Iran and the international community, and vice versa, basically. Now, we as government, we believe in principles, which is respect of others, good neighborship, respecting sovereignty, and no interference in internal affairs, domestic. Our constitution is clear. Iraq should not be a starting point to attack neighboring countries. And this is the position of Iraq. This is the position of the international, of the national institutions, and this is clear. And therefore, we are working towards security, safety. This region, once again, is a region that has an impact on the world, and Iraq is a strong country in the stability of the region.
Attention at Davos about this being an election year in many countries around the world, but in particular in my own country, in the United States, where the likelihood is of a rematch of the 2020 contest between President Biden and former President Trump. Do you see, and we've heard in the European context, that many people feel there's great stakes in that election for the future of NATO and other alliances. Do you see similar consequences in your country or in the Mideast region for in the outcome of that election?
أي انتخابات في أي دولة نحن نحترم.
Well, any elections in any country, we are going to respect the outcome of the agreement, of the elections. We have strategic partnership with many countries. We have strategic partnership with the UN, with the EU, EU countries. So I met the commissioners from the EU. We spoke about many projects. We have outstanding relationship with the EU countries. We have mutual respect. There are major investments of EU countries and American companies in Iraq, in addition to the programs and investments that are underway. Iraq believes in strengthening its relationship with all the countries based on the values that I just mentioned earlier, based on our constitution.
Davos are here because they're heavily involved in climate change and environmental issues. I wonder if you could describe some of the views that you're taking to mitigate the environmental impacts of climate change in Iraq, and particularly in terms of water scarcity, a big issue in your country, and preservation of Iraq's unique natural heritage.
ابتداء منطقتنا هي أكثر منطقة.
Our region is one of the most vulnerable regions to the climate change, and therefore we are going to have a joint committee between the Gulf countries and Iraq in order to work on the climate change. We have a problem of desertification. We have a problem of drought and scarcity of water, and the Tigris and Euphrates level of water also is diminishing, and therefore we are an oil-producing countries, and we have the problem of the flaring of the gas wells, and therefore one of the major steps in reforming the energy is to invest this flaring through cooperation with Total and also with other international oil companies. And there are other investments in the sixth round to use these flaring. And now we have involved in project of renewable energies through contracts to use solar panels in order to, and in Davos, there were some concrete understanding between some major investments in using the wind energy, and Iraq has got a very good big potential as well. We also started a different proper management of water resources in our country, so that we will be enabled to meet the livelihood needs and the agricultural and industrial needs. We have participated in COP28 with the negotiating delegation on the part of Iraq, and our aim and our policy in COP28 is to reduce carbon emission at the production level, and this is part of the sustainability program that is underpinning the programs of energy in our country.
Just a couple of minutes left, and I was wondering if I could invite you to think a little bit philosophically, both looking backward, looking forward. As you look back at the last 20-plus years of change and, in some cases, violent disruption in Iraq, is there any particular strategic decision that you wish had gone differently? And then as you look forward to the next 20 years of Iraq, what's going to be different about your country? What does your country look like 20 years from now that's going to make it a significantly different place with higher quality of life for your people?
Yes. I would like to say that our country is going to be better, definitely better. Iraq is taking very solid steps in the future with the support of the Iraqis with all their components, and this is a source of energy. We are moving forward based on citizenship, based on a partnership and also complementarity, understanding between all the components of Iraq, so that we have a new economic vision. We have a new Iraq with all its projects and partners. We invest the natural resources that we have. We based on our heritage, on our civilization, so that we are able to have a better, brighter Iraq, a united, independent, stable Iraq in the future.
Sir, thank you. That's a great note to close on with just the remaining moments here. I wanted to thank everyone in the audience and everybody online for joining us. Sir, I want to thank you for giving your thoughts and your perspective very emphatically on several points, and we're very appreciative of it. Thank you, sir.